One of the things that I'm constantly talking about is how the most progressive people, the people that claim to have the highest moral ground, and they have all these solutions that you have to be a moral person to do things the right way, almost inevitably, all of these people prescribe things for you that they're unwilling to do themselves. A great example of that would be the Young Turks and their host, Cenk Uygur. And I want to read this article. Now, Cenk's someone who thinks, oh, we need minimum wages and people that work at companies need to share in the profits of their employers, etc. He's a big unionization for everyone type person. But a couple weeks ago, when his staff threatened to unionize, he had a big meeting where he was throwing papers and yelling at people because he's pleading with them not to unionize. Here's from the liberal Huffington Post discussing this, and we're going to read a little of this article. Young Turk's progressive founder urged his staff not to unionize. In a tense meeting with employees, Cenk Uygur argued that a union doesn't belong in a small news network struggling to make profits. Top leadership of the progressive news network, the Young Turks, held an all-staff meeting at its office in Culver City, California on February 12th. The regularly scheduled gathering was supposed to deal with personal matters, but instead the focus turned to the staff's nascent union campaign, which has just gone public. Earlier that day, a Twitter handle claiming to represent the Young Turks employees had announced on the social media platform their intention to form a union. In the staff meeting, the network's co-founder and influential host, Cenk Uygur, urged employees not to do so, arguing that a union does not belong at a small independent outlet like the Young Turks, according to two workers who were present. He said if there had been a union at the network, it would have not grown the way it was. His talk, at times emotional, the staffer said, with Uygur throwing his papers to the ground at one point and chastising an employee, seemed to contradict the progressive worker-first ethos that the Young Turks broadcast to its millions of lefty followers. Jack Gerard, who's acting as the company's chief operating officer as Uygur runs for Congress in California, told the staff they are not discouraging unionization, but the message from Uygur was clear, and, to at least some staffers, discouraging. Now, I'll link the article and you could read the rest of it, but this is just like Bernie Sanders. All of these people that say, oh, it's immoral to have profits. Oh, we need to make sure that everyone gets the same amount of money. Oh, there needs to be profit sharing and people shouldn't be hoarding their wealth. Well, here's Cenk Uygur, and he's someone who goes out and has that same type of message that Bernie has. And what's he say when it comes to his own business? Oh, it would have hampered our business's growth if there was a union. It would have hampered our growth if I had to share the profits more with the people beneath me. Now remember, people like him, people like Bernie, I tell you all the time about the debate Bernie had with Ted Cruz, where a woman stands up and says, I own a small business. I employ 5 or 6 people. At the end of the year, I only bring home 10, 20,000. Do you think that I should be forced to pay for health care for my employees? And Bernie says, yes. Cenk would have said yes as well. This is what they do. You're immoral. If you own a company and you're not sharing all of the profits with employees, it doesn't matter if you say, but then I wouldn't be able to bring anything home. But then my company wouldn't grow. It doesn't matter. You're immoral. But them, it's totally reasonable. Capitalism's good for them. Just like Bernie Sanders. Remember, Bernie used to complain about millionaires and billionaires. And then Bernie became a millionaire. And now he complains only about billionaires. See, for Cenk and Bernie and all these other socialists, anyone with 1 cent more than them is immoral. Now, they're welcome to take all the tax loopholes they want. They're welcome to keep all the profits from companies they own that they want. Not like Bernie's ever owned a company. They're welcome to have third lake houses. They're welcome to fly in private jets in first class. But you're not. You're immoral if you do that type of stuff. Now, isn't it interesting that Cenk here admits fully that going socialist the way that he's prescribing for everyone else, that his candidate Bernie's prescribing for everyone, that would have devastated his company. It wouldn't have been able to grow. But that's what we need for the country as a whole. What do you think will happen to small business owners around the country? This is something I say over and over again. Socialism will devastate them more than it'll affect the large corporations that these so-called socialists claim to dislike. Things like universal minimum wage being $15, $20 an hour that people like Cenk and Bernie are calling for. What do you think that does to the small mom-and-pop shops in rural Pennsylvania where I live? They could barely afford to make a profit when they're paying people $9, $10 an hour. All of a sudden they have to double that or raise it to $15 an hour? They won't be able to survive. But the people they're competing with, the Walmarts, etc., places like that, they'll be just fine. They'll continue to screw over workers. They'll raise prices because now they'll have more of a monopoly in these small towns. And life will go on for them. It'll be you, the consumer, and it'll be the people that own the small businesses that are affected most by these gross governmental regulations and expansion of governmental power in the name of socialism. And as always, we see rules for you, but not for them. Oh no, Cenk's entitled to his money. Socialism would hurt his company, so he's begging his employees, please don't hold me to the same standard that I'm trying to hold the rest of the country to. That's what Cenk's doing here. That's what the Young Turks are about. That's what Bernie Sanders is about. So remember that. Bernie knows. Bernie takes every tax loophole he can. Now that Bernie's a millionaire, you heard it in the debate the other day. I need my third lake house. I need it. It's just a modest summer home, a summer camp. Bernie's third lake house is better than any house I'll ever own. I'm struggling to make payments on a house that's worth less than $100,000. I'm paying mortgage payments every month. But I got to listen to how I'm immoral because of my politics. But he's totally welcome to have his wealth. It's everyone else who has wealth that's immoral. This is just a great example of that. So I'll link this story. Check it out. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to people that know that Cenk and the Young Turks, they're hypocrites as always. But it just goes to show that this, quote, progressive movement isn't progressive at all. What it is, it's about them being angry at certain class of people and wanting to punish people. They think that their wealth is well-gotten, and they should be allowed to be capitalists, and they should be allowed to keep their money, and they should be allowed to live in gated communities. But you're the person who's the problem. Everyone else is the person who's the problem. Hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Check out the description where you can follow me on different places. I got a new podcast. It's currently on Podbean, but I'm going to have it by the end of the week. It's going to be on iTunes. It's going to be on Spotify. So check me out there. There'll be some exclusive podcast content, and a lot of my live stuff will be going there. So thank you so much as always, everyone, and have a good one.